Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of A Logician Plays Logic Bombs. I'm probably just going to finish this row today, just get through the rest of this, and then just be done. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I do want to put a little bit into it. Wow, there is so much and little information here. Well, if it's 9, then it's got to be this. 9 has to be like this. Well, this has to all be connected, right? In order for this to all be connected, this has to be like this. It's the only way that'll work. Because this has to connect to this area here. I think. Every area must have a little guy in it. Well, in order for this to connect to this... Oh, okay, I see what we're doing. We're doing this to make it a guaranteed... Yeah. Okay, well now we need 8, so this gets filled in, that gets filled in, that gets filled in, that gets filled in. This needs 1 more, this needs fewer. That is just filling in the rest appropriately. That has to be like this. 8 means 2 of these have to be filled. 2 of these have to be filled. None of these are filled. 2 of these are filled. Oh. There we go. Figured it out. Little funky. Got there in the end. Cute little puzzle. Now... Divides it in 2. Only 1 wall in all of that. Only 1 wall in all of this. Like, my instincts... Well, actually, this is not correct. So, this is wrong, because then there's no way to fill this in. Which means, actually, because it can't do that, it has to come and get one of these. You just have to get all 3 of these, which means this has to be blocked off. I'm assuming the same logic is here, where there's 3. Yep, there is. This has to be blocked off so I can get all of those. Which means this is actually the way that it resolves. Like this, and like this, at the very least. But now comes the tricky part. We need something between here. We need something between here. Well, these have to be solid because this needs to be blocked off somewhere here. And as a consequence, this has to then be open. Likewise, these have to be open for the exact same reason. Is this perfectly symmetrical? No, it's not. Is it rotationally symmetrical? 6, 4, 1, 2, 3. 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's in the same place. Same. Yeah, so it's rotationally symmetrical around the midpoint. So we can actually work with that pretty easily with how this has to be solved. Well, because it's rotationally symmetrical, and because I think it has to be rotationally symmetrical, we know that at least 2 of these have to be filled in the middle here. In fact, there's 6 right here, so this has to be done like this. But there's also 6, and it has to be filled in like that. So we have this center bit filled. Likewise, this is gonna boom. Not the same way, because we got this little guy there. These guys work that way. These guys do not, because it's a 180-degree rotational symmetry, not 90-degree symmetry. In fact, because we need to be able to breach up this way, we know that cannot fill in that entire area here. That resolves. That resolves. We need something to block this off here. But this is done. Oh, wait, no, it's not. I don't know why I said that was done. It looked like it was done. I thought this was a dull one for some reason, but it isn't. So it could just be right here. There's got to be another point here that's obvious. Yeah, here we go. These had to obviously be filled in because those are the only 4 that we actually have left. 3 is now resolved here, so that can be entirely filled in. 2 is now resolved here, which puts us in there. Two needs to be in this column. These are the only places where they can go. So that's done. Now, because of this little U shape, 1 can't go anywhere here, it also blocks it off. So 1 has to go there. Cute. Cute little resolution of that particular point of fuckery. Wait. Oh, it goes there. There we go. And there's only one place. Oh, it was already done there. Whoops. Okay. Swag. Look at that, we're unlocking some new levels ahead. Sweet. Okay. What do I know? What can I prove immediately? We only have one wall here. We only have one wall here. This is not a symmetrical puzzle at all. There's no formal symmetry to work with here. Okay. What can we prove immediately? I'm looking at each of these and saying, okay, well, it does, like, do they have to be associated with one particular bomb? Because, like, if this was forced, for example, then all of these would be filled in. Which means that this has to be filled in, this has to be filled. Like, this is the logic I'm currently employing, right? That forces those in order for the 3 to resolve. And then 2 can only see them by going down this way. And the 1 has to then be up here. That's, like, my initial thinking. And I don't see a problem with that. Then I have to do this. Okay, so that breaks. So, I've now noticed a piece of logic that I can actually start off with without bifurcation here. This is a guaranteed vision. Has to be a guaranteed vision because we only have 1 and we need a blockade between this 2 and 1 here. So it needs to either be here or here. So this has to be visible. Likewise, because we need a blockade between these, this is also visible. And since the 1 can't go over here, that's forced. Okay. That's forced then, subsequently. Now, we only have 1 blockade for all of this, and it needs to prevent it from seeing here, which means these are guaranteed vision. That's guaranteed vision. It's either here or here, but we're not quite sure whether we need both or only one. Because this 2 could go over this way, though we need to block off this. This 2 could see all of this in theory. It would be a little annoying, but it would definitely be possible. And then with that, you block off here. 4 might see the other 2 somewhere else. Who cares? What doesn't matter? This 2... Can't you see this one? Can't see this one. The only ones that I can see are now these 2, which means it has to see those guys. There has to be a wall here, so this has to be visible. This can only see 2, so this has to be forced. Unfortunately, I don't think there's anything else that's immediately forced. Because we can put a wall here or here. Either way. We're going to have to put a wall to block off this section if it comes here or like this. But like... Oh, I see a thing. Okay. 2 sees 3. This one and these 2. But no matter what, you have to see this guy. There's no other way to be able to do it except for seeing this guy in particular. Because if you don't get this guy, you only see 1. So that's forced, which means 4 can only see those 2 and these 2 here, which means those are forced to be 4s. Which means this is forced to be 2, which means that's forced to be a wall. Which means that's forced to be the one that has to get blocked off. And now we can actually, like, do some blocking properly here. Let's get some of our forced things laid the fuck down. That has to be visible because we have to put a wall somewhere here. There has to be a wall somewhere here. So there has to be a wall there. And there has to be a wall somewhere here. This has to all be visible now. This 1 is resolved. 2, that 1 is resolved. Okay, weird little thing. I can prove, with a shadow of a doubt, 100%, that that is black. And it's not the other one. The reason I can prove this is a little bit weird. These guys here need to be blocked off from each other. Somehow. Right? Some way, somehow. Don't know exactly how. This guy can be blocked off this way. And be sequestered. But these guys need a thing in between them to be able to separate them away from the wall. If you basically imagine that this guy's pressed up against this wall here, you need something to divide the connection between them here. And the only square that actually can do that is this one right here. And it's blocked off on all the other sides. So that's forced. That's the only way we can get this wall outwards. And then once again, this wall needs to continue outwards to be the wall that's going to isolate this away from this guy, so it has to come out again. And now there's only one way it can go, which is downwards, so it has to go downwards. But now we're reaching a bit of a branching path. It could be here, could be this way. We don't know exactly how it's going to split. Though, I'm actually, funny enough, the way that this will eventually broach... Yeah, same idea. Okay, fun thing. These are both walls. They have to be. By the exact same metric of... this guy and this guy need to be in separate rooms. And then this actually comes up this way. It has to come up that way. Because the only way that it can escape this little pocket and connect up with the rest of the everything else here. That's a really neat step of logic there to get everything to work. Because you need to think now of these walls as if they are bridging the connection between these guys. And now if these touch... and then somehow come down and connect at the bottom or over here, which actually has to be the bottom here. If they come in to connect here, like let's say that this wraps downwards and touches here, and this wraps downwards and touches here. I think it actually is forced to... Actually, yeah. This entire section is curved off, which means no matter whether this is black or not, this has to be black. Likewise, in order for this to connect, this has to be black. And in fact, you have to keep going down here until you connect. Then that's 6, so that's forced to be closed now. That's forced off. but now this can be filled in a couple different ways in order to fill in this particular tile. But this tile needs to come out of this section. So it needs to be like this. 2 is now done. This needs to now be done. We don't... Oh, 4 is now resolved. 2 is now resolved. So yeah, now you have this little section over here. There you go. Look at that. That's really cool. So that's a form of abstracting ideas. Because you have to separate them into different specific chunks, you need to think of the walls as if they are dividing the space, and thinking of the consequences of when you divide those walls, and what the areas then look like subsequently. So in this case, everything has to be in one big section. And in fact, we have to start like this. So we are gonna have to create a throughput of visible lines of like yellows that connects this to this and this to this and this to this and this to this to get everything all together into one. Now, notably, in order for it to go out on both sides, this needs to both be visible, which means that kills it this way. And now we have quads, so this has to come up this way. And look at that. Once again, we've isolated these entire areas. And now we need to once again come out this way to get closer. And then, wow, once again, we've closed off these ways. That's the logic we have to implement here. We keep doing this over and over again, where the only thing we can do is get closer and closer to the destination we want to end up having. There's 3 here. There's 3 more that have to be filled in. Bam. Bam. Same idea. Upwards, upwards. Fill, fill, fill. This is already full. So this is forced to be full, 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 full. Look at that. Trivial. Easy as pie. Once you just find the way of forcing the walls to wriggle around, it makes things significantly easier. So once again, everything is all in one. Okay, interesting here. There's only one wall here. It's either blocking off something, or it's not blocking off something. This 6 can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these. It's possible that this is where the wall is. But it is not possible that any of those are walls. It's not... So this can only be seen by the 6, so it has to be there. We now have these 4 opportunity places for the walls. If there has to be one wall this way... So because there has to be a wall here and it can't be there, 6 will only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll have to see another one down below. Exactly one more down below, because it cannot see any more than that, which means it's forced for the wall to be here regardless. So we have this. We don't know which one it's seeing, though. We're going to have to figure that out through all the other things here. This row is entirely done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Here we go. Okay, so 7 fills in most of the other gaps there. That's good. You have anywhere else that does a lot of resolution? Not quite yet. This 1 has to see this. This one has to see this, which means this is the way that this works. That's the only way that any of this actually ends up working out. So there has to be a 1 blockade here, which means these are free. Which means these get solid in. 5 doesn't quite fill out for free there. 1 here does, though. 2 here does not. 6 has to have a blocker here, so we can get that to work. Okay, all the bombs are correctly resolved now, except we need a blocker in one of these 2 locations. We're not sure which one, but it's just one of the 2. 7, we resolve like this. 2s and 3s are done now. 4 we can resolve this way. That's all done. We need 1 more here. 5, fill out all the way. 3 is done, 2 is done. And there we go. Easy clap. Okay, what do I immediately see here? I immediately see this big 8. And I see that we have to have, again, the area all be connected, which means you need to have a contiguous area of ones, or of like the yellows to connect all together. I see an 8 here that crosses the 1 here, which is fairly limiting in space generally. Once again, we have this weird issue of which things do each of these connect up to. It's also asymmetrical. Or is it? It's vaguely asymmetrical. It's kind of symmetrical, kind of not. I don't like it. Yeah. What do I immediately see? Is there anything that's like basically forced rotationally? Well, if there's only one wall here, it needs to be into one of these two specific places, because 2 cannot look at the 1. There needs to be something in between here, which means all of this is already done, which means the 1 cannot see this, which means this is how we start. So that's the initial conditions. 1 sees its thing, so these all have to get blocked off. This is being spotted, so all those get blocked off. And then that's 2, so that's actually now done. Once again, this gets blocked off, that gets blocked off, that gets blocked off. 4s are done, 8s are done. You might notice that this is like Pac-Man-y, where this comes up here, which means we need a way to escape and get back down to this area here, so we can't have a full area sealed off. That'll be interesting to deal with. This gets a little square where it can be either vertical or horizontal resolves, and we don't know, though this has to be like that. What else do we have? Five. Wait, this is 8. Whoops. That should not have been sealed off that way. Whoops. I thought it was, I don't know what I was thinking. It's pretty obvious that these have to be sealed off. They're kind of forced to be sealed off. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that this is sealed off, but that's just a, that's a prediction for later. I'm not actually going to be able to resolve it that way. Those 6s are done. So those being done are interesting. I'm seeing some, like, consequences of if you do one thing, it forces a different thing. So, okay. These have to be vertical. The reason why they have to be vertical is that if one of them is horizontal, both of them be horizontal, but there's no way for you to be able to fill the other gap and prevent them from gluing up. Which means they have to be vertical, which means this is like this. Which means this has to then come out this way in order for it to breach out of the middle here and get somewhere else. These also have to be horizontal. Because if they were vertical, it would seal off this area and we wouldn't be able to do anything with it. And then... yeah, like that. Okay, then like this. This is technically still connected. So this is a valid place to put it in theory. But so would this. No, that would not be, because it would actually seal it off. This is the correct place to put it objectively. Okay, good to know. 8. It can seal off either of these. It doesn't have to be. It could be either or both. We don't know. We just know that this cannot be sealed off, because it needs to connect everything else. Which means we need to do this. Which means we need to do this, and then we need to loop together like this at the very least. Let it come out. It's now connected up to here. So as long as one of these two areas get out, then we're fine. 1, 2. We don't have a third quite yet. One of these areas is going to be blocked off, but I'm not sure which one. Well, interestingly, we have to fill in 3 more spaces here, which means no matter what, one of these 2 spaces needs to be filled, which means both of them need to be filled. Which means this actually comes around this way. That could go vertically or it could go here. We don't know which one. Well, we need to fill in... Oh, this is going to be a zigzag pattern, isn't it? Like that kind of thing, right? Or like that? There we go. That was a tricky one. Very tricky one, I will tell you. Okay. What do I immediately see? Immediately, I notice that there's a bunch of ones in this puzzle. There has to be something that blocks off something in this direction, which means all of these are free. There's no such consequence about this direction. Though, this cannot connect up this way. So it needs to be one of these horizontal ones that it connects to. One, two, three, four, five, 6 separate sections is going to be kind of annoying. But okay, what do we get in terms of information to work with? We need a blockade. Excuse me. We need a blockade here, but we have 2. We need a blockade here, and we only do have 1. If I put the block here, then this sees that. This always has to be visible because the only ones. Yeah, once again, same idea here. If 2 sees like this, nothing would see this because 1 can't reach that far enough. So this has to be visible. Then what? One of these 2 is filled in, which we already know. Like, that's just... Once I can place a couple outside areas, then I can start figuring out, well, how can they, like, bridge together to create this little sealy areas for these guys. But until then, I don't have a really solid basis. Well, there is something interesting. That's 1. That's 1. That's 1. That's 1. The perimeter only has 1 apiece, which means that that's where the outside bits are going to bulge from. We can create little compact intersections, like little sections kind of like isolated. But for the things on the perimeter, we need to have ways of separating them. One of these needs to be solid. Likewise, one of these needs to be solid. Of course, we know there's multiple that need to be solid. But because this is connected like this, one of these needs to be solid. We know that these guys are solid. So we could connect that up to like whatever ends up being down here, and that would work, right? But this... Okay, cool. So, that's not a wall. This guy is basically connected to here. It connects to the wall right here. So this section here needs a way to split this guy away from this guy, which means one of these guys needs to have a wall, and those cannot. Likewise, these guys need to be split off, which means one of these guys needs to have a wall. Now this guy is connected up to here, so one of these needs to have a wall. But it can be basically anywhere else, right? That's not a huge deal. That's a lesser bit of information because we already know that one of these needs to be a wall just based on the other things we filled in. But that does tell us some valuable information. Notably that whatever comes here, we'll have to bridge and connect up to here somehow to separate this guy away from the others. Whatever's here connects to this wall here to separate this guy from the others. Whatever's here connects here to isolate this guy, then here and here to isolate this guy. And then probably something that cuts through the middle, either this way or this way. And in fact, those are the only two... Oh, no, there's a third way here. This way here. So these three ways are the only ways that you can draw two cells that cut these two apart. I was going to say if those are the only two ways, then this has to be solid. But that's not the case here. Because it could go down here, could be in the middle, could be up this way. Okay. Is this a symmetrical map? No. In any way? No, not in any way. So, yeah, excuse me for the yawns. So once again, by the same logic we did up here, this guy must see this. It just doesn't make sense otherwise. Which also means, because there's nothing else that sees this guy, he needs to see it, right? Because this guy can't reach him. However, interesting consequence of this then is that this guy needs to see that one. That is forced. Because that's the only way that you can resolve all three of these guys here, because this guy's only seen by these guys and this. But because these guys are functionally one looking in this direction, neither of them reaches the middle. So the only one that does reach the middle is this guy. So you have to do that, and then block off the other two from hitting it. Which creates the situation here. And because you have to block it off, because this guy has no other guys that see it, you're forced to put that one in. Cool. That works really well. That's super convenient, actually. Gets that logic all sorted out. But now, do we do this or do we do this? My guess is that it's going to be the 1 is connecting to that one. The 2's connect along here. This guy connects up, this guy connects like that. But I'm not actually sure because it's going to be the black cells that actually dictate that. This guy has to connect along to the bottom at some point, so... This is the only way that this bridges out and connects this guy up. So one of these three has to bridge upwards out through here. Any of these guys could do it, but this guy could not. So you could have any of the other ones possibly work as your 1. Weird situation I just noticed. Okay, yeah. These guys need to see at least one cat, right? Need to see at least one cat face. Well, depending on how we do this, okay, well, no, because we could just bridge this way. Well, okay, so yeah, this guy might see this guy. So if we make this black, for example, then this guy might only see this one, this might only see this one, or something like that, or only this one, as it's one valid cat. We might have to deduce which cat this one gunpowder sees. Okay, so that has to be connected like this, which means this is done like this. Which means the only thing that sees this is this 1. Which is possible, actually. No, it's not, because that 1 has to be blocked by the 4. Only other thing that sees is this 2. So this 2 has to see it. Yeah, if this number was, like, only 1, then I could, like, fill this in without having to worry. But, yeah, in this case, there has to be stuff that blocks it off. So 2 is the only thing that actually works there. Which then means that this 2 doesn't see this guy, so this has to be the situation. Though this 2 could continue to see this one. We're not 100% sure about that one yet. This guy can't see this guy, so we do have to actually block it off. Because they're not allowed to blow up little gunpowder things. So that happens. This has to happen in order for it not to blow up the little gunpowdery things. So that's how it's cutting through, diagonally like that. Got it. Okay. This guy can't be the one. Okay, funny situation. These guys are almost connected. They will be connected if this is visible. So that has to be black. So we have to cut off those connected areas otherwise. So we've created now the lower 2 barrier, as we were hoping to be able to do. So this is the only thing that's separating these 2 areas right here that have a guy and have a guy. So you need that keep that continually divided. This 2 sees this, which means this 2 sees this. There has to be another guy blocking down here, which means this is free. Okay. Okay. Look to see if there's anything that's like mildly resolved. Like we know there has to be one of the things here, but we only know one. That's resolved, which is interesting because that creates a weird circumstance now where this has to split off in one of these 2 directions, right? Well, these guys are going to connect by this, so it has to be black here, or else this section connects to this section. Likewise, this section and this section are going to connect unless there's also black. So that's also solved. This section is going to connect up to here unless I block it. It needs to be blocked both directions. So that's done. These need to be blocked off by the exact same virtue. So that's done. Well, these guys are going to connect here unless there's at least one thing here. These are going to connect here unless there's at least one thing here. So that's where both of the things are going to go. This has to be solid like this. This one doesn't have to be solid in either direction because it can block off either way. We could do this or we could do like this. That would still be valid. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be where the black is, but I just want to make sure that I'm 100% sure about it. Yeah, because this guy, if we don't put the black here and put it like here, it'll connect up this way to these, connecting these 2 together, or down here to connect these 2 together. So this is forced to be black. Okay. Now these are all solid for the 5. These are all solid for the 5. This is to be solid for the 4. No, it doesn't. One of these 2 needs to be solid. Oh god, that was a complicated puzzle. Require a lot of active brain power in order to be able to get through. Okay. Well, okay. These had to be separated by the same virtue I was talking about before. These have to be separated in order for this to work. In order for because we have 2 of these, and each one needs to have its own cat in the area, this is forced. So we're immediately doing this to start off with. And then this has to come out here. 6. Well, there's none here, so this is 6. And then that's a 4, 6 as well. That's a 4, 6. That's a forced 5. Well, we need to connect down here somewhere, just to separate. And we need to connect somewhere here. So this is a blockade. That means that these have to be connected. Okay. Six. Well, these have to be blocked off. So we only have one entranceway, and we need an entranceway that comes through this way. So these are both blocked off. Everything else doesn't fucking matter. We need 5. Oh. Okay. This has to be solid. That has to be open. Which that has to be solid. Right? That's forced to do this. Ah, it's like this. That's what I missed. I was trying to force it in the other direction, and I hadn't considered that the other direction could have actually worked. Okay. I see a few 8s here that are crossing interestingly. I see a 1 here that does some interesting things. For example, this guy right here, see, only visible by 2 guys, this bomb and this bomb. However, this bomb must be blocked from it because there's a thing there. So this is forced to be spotted. And now there's only a 1 in one of these directions, which means this cannot see this bomb. It has to be either this guy, or this guy has to see this guy, this cat. Necessarily. What else do we know here? Not a lot, honestly. I'm trying to see if there's any, like, forced deductions, but I don't see anything off the top of my head. And there's really just not much to go off of for this particular puzzle. I don't see an obvious way forward. Well, okay, I do see one thing right here. This one is not looking at either of these cats. It has to be going horizontally. It has to. So because of yeah, okay. No matter how you fill this in, you have to put an additional one blocking both cats, which means this is forced and that's forced. That's actually like a helpful deduction. Um, just scouring all over, seeing if there's any logical steps that I can get from here. But I don't see any. Like, this is just. I don't see anything that forces either of these to be filled quite yet. Like, if there was. If this, for example, said a 4, they say, okay, well, then both would need to be filled in. We'd have information. But, like, why can't we just do this? And why can't we just do this? Or this? Like, we can't force that direction quite yet, unfortunately. And likewise, this is a 2, which means I can't force, like this in order to be able to force something else in there. It needs to be a 4 at the very least. For me to force it something in the lower row, something like it's just, yeah. 3 is interesting. Because this 2 cannot see this cat. We've already established that 1 can't see the verticals, so one of these needs to be visible. But then, if we fill all 3... Sorry, here, so that this sees here, it breaks, because 1 can't see anything. So this needs to be blocked off. Which means 2 does either go vertically or... Yeah, this 2 does go entirely vertically. Either all the way up or all the way down. Which, we already knew that, but now we're actually gaining information that it cannot do this. Regardless. Is there anything else that has that similar property? Well, we could block both of these, unfortunately. We don't quite have the same information there. Well, we need this to be solid in order to separate these guys at the very least. Okay, interesting. In order for these to be separated, we actually need to completely breach between them all the way through. This is preventing us from doing that. These 3 tiles. One of these needs to be filled in order for us to be able to, like, truly get around these. Which means this 2 sees this. Because it cannot see this guy. There is something always blocking it from being able to work. So likewise, that means that this has to see this. No, it doesn't, because it could do this, right? But at least we see this. That's information. This is blocked off this way, but we already knew that. I'm getting a little bit tired. This might be my last one for today. I was hoping to get through the entire row, but this is a particularly tricky one, and it's causing a lot of brain power. Going through all of my, going through all the protein I got up in the old dome, you know? Churning through the old cerebral cortex. Okay. Okay. Another neat consequence. Same idea as with these guys. So remember I was talking about the walls here? In order for these to truly be separate, they need to go around and away through, which forces a blockade somewhere in these 4 tiles, which means 2 has to see these guys. That's forced. Now, the same is not true here, because we could go through like this. We don't have to butt our way through here or through that in order to be able to get our separation between these 2 here done. As an example, there is a route around it. Okay, this is then forced, which is good. Because that's the only place where you could possibly get that one to work. Okay. Now, this then forces this to be connected. And these to be connected. There has to be one here and one here. Somewhere in that area there. 7 has to be filled in, which is all of these guys. These are not blocked off. This has to have a block off. So this breaches up top and then comes down here, and then this is going to have to wrap around somewhere in here and block somewhere in this direction. That's the only way that this big-ass fucking confusing section won't bridge with this guy. So yeah, one of these bridges down. Don't know which one. Could be both. Could be neither. Who knows? Who fucking knows? What do we know for these areas now? We've now like locked in what places have to be visible, but now we've got to figure out which ones cannot be. Okay, interesting. Since this is bridging from the wall here, so yeah, this is bridging from the wall. This is the only place that separates this from this guy's connection to the wall here, because this wouldn't seal it off because it connects this way. So this guy connects to the wall here. They need something separating them connected by wall. So it has to connect this way, and then it has to connect up this way. So because that it does that, it has to bridge up eventually. Yeah. Not sure exactly where it would get placed, but it would be something like this, right? So excuse me. Where this comes out of, that's where the 3 is going to have to connect up, which means neither of these can be covered. Likewise, this is going to have to come out one way or another, like this. So neither of these could possibly be that. We need a blockade there, so that's our one blockade. This can only have one more connection. This can only have one more connection vertically. This 4, this 3. So you could do something like this in theory, I guess. Then that would technically work. But it could just be like this. Or something like that to seal off that area. But we won't really know until we've resolved more. 3 at the bottom has to do this. That's pretty good that results like this, because that forces the 2s to be like this. And then this has to connect like this in order to get that entire section working. 1, this cannot be the 1. This has to be the 1 because the 3 is already done. This has to bridge downwards. Yes, because this this connects to the wall here. It has to connect to this section here. Oh, we already have the 2, so it has to do this. Sweet, sweet, sweet. This then connects like this. This is wide exposed, which means this is forced. We do need to separate these like this, so this is going to do all of that, I think. Oh, that actually works, doesn't it? Like this. Yeah, that's how that works. Neat. That's pretty cool. Okay. Okay, I've only got 1 more in the row, so I guess I'll finish it right now. Fuck it. I've got enough time and a little bit of mental energy to do it. 8! Okay. Well, this sees all 8 of these, and that's the only things that it does see. Likewise, it sees all 8 of those. This sees those 2, so those are the ones that it's going to have to do. We're going to have to block off 1 there, which means that's open. 1 there, which means that's open. Okay. What do we gain from here? Well, this is forcibly connected to this little group. This guy is forcibly connected to at least one of these groups. Doesn't have to be both, but at least one of these. It is forcibly connected to at least one of these groups. It's possible this kind of just like loops. Oh, wait a moment. This little X here is actually really problematic. Because there's no way for us to be able to close off this section. The only way to do that is, yeah, okay. That's neat. The only way we can enter this little circle here is through these little diagonal bits. And we need to do something to section off at least some of these cats from something. I think that this is what's forced. I think we're forced to bubble these guys. It could be a bigger bubble, but like I think we're forced to do something like that. It could be like although then we have fucking 6, which is weird, so maybe it's like something like that as an example. And then we have 2 here, so we do that. But like something weird like that, right? To get everything functional. That would be a way that you could split the area. And it'd be a little bit funky. In fact, because this is forced, and this leads to touch the wall, this is actually forced. Like this. That's really interesting. Don't know where the rest of the 5 go, but that is a forced area. In fact, these have to also... this one particularly has to be open in order for this to be able to connect to one of the bunnies. And now we need to do something that... this guy's connected to this bunny. This guy's connected to these bunnies. We need to somehow isolate them from the rest. There is no way to do that by bridging these together in a way that also isolates from the rest. Because like if I do this, Well, yeah, these guys are now totally isolated, but these guys connect here. So we do need a way of internally separating them by bubbling. Bubbling is interesting. Um... I'm just like fucking around and seeing what's semi-forced, what's not forced at all, you know, that kind of thing. Well, interestingly, something I have actually noticed, in order to create a bubble here, no matter what, in order to be able to encapsulate this, the bubble needs to have a top, bottom, left, and right, or something like that. There needs to be a coverage that covers the north and the south in each of these directions, which means these are actually forced clears, which means... Oh, wait, are they forced clears? Wait, that's going to create problems, isn't it? Yeah. What? How do we seal this, then? Okay, we're just going to do a quick little soft restart here. Because I think I'm correct, but it's causing me some issues, so I just want to reassess my priors. This 8 only sees these 8, so it has... This is forced. These guys have to be somehow separated. The only way that you can separate them meaningfully, and also see one of these guys, will be by creating this barrier here. I guess you could have the other one go like here. Does that change anything? Not really. Oh no, because this is... Oh no, does this have to, this doesn't have to be blocked off. I don't know why I marked that as blocked off necessary as free, because it doesn't have to be free. Ha ha. I do think I'm correct in that assessment. But these having to be like this. We do this. It's gonna be something like that. I'm not sure this is actually forced, though. I'm just, like, spitballing. It could be, like... That also gets us close, right? Oh, is this symmetrical, rotationally? 26225, 26225, 513, 513. Okay, so it is symmetrical. That's very helpful to realize. Oh, no, it's not symmetrical because the board is rotationally symmetrical, but this is only reflectionally symmetrical in this regard. This is not a rotationally symmetrical board, I don't think. Oh no, it is. It is rotationally symmetrical. It's just okay, it's not okay. Oh, that's weird. Okay. I understand. It is symmetrical. I'm just blind. Okay, so let's do the funny thing here. I've been looking, trying doing. All the sixes. All the sixes. Those threes are done. 3, 6, 2, 2, 3, 6. Then how do we fill in the 5? That's the big question we have. How the hell do we fill in that 5? Well, that's already done. So then is this forced? I think it might be forced then. Three is now resolved. 3 is now resolved. Six is now resolved. 6 is now resolved. 2 is now resolved. We need this to be sectioned off. So 6's and 2 are now resolved. Now, why is it one and not the other? Why aren't these both valid solutions? Six, 2, 2, 6, 3, 1. Or 4, we have two options. 5, 2, 1 becomes, yeah. Yep. Yeah. It will become 2. 2, that'll be 5. Oh! This is blocked off. These guys are blocked off. That's not correct. That's, I think, the way that we have to fix it. Then how do we fix this? What are we missing? 5, 1, 3, 6, 2, 2, 6, 3, 1, 5. Missing 1, 2, 2. Okay, we need to resolve these corners now. This is forced, but all the other surrounding fluff here is not. Huh. Where else do we fucking go? Like, I don't actually see where else we can put the 5s. It doesn't make sense. I'm actually getting very confused. We're forced to make this kind of box. We've already resolved this guy here and this guy here. We've put it in literally every place we possibly can. Unless the play is... Nope. Because if we did this weird like wrapping thing where we went around to make like a weird Z shape all the way through, we don't have enough here to work with because this has to be seen. So now we have to deal with this particular issue. Because now we're wrapping the other direction, and that could work, right? Oh my god. That was an incredibly tiring puzzle to work on. We got there in the end, but that one felt like I was just sloughing through different ideas until it ended up falling into my lap. But there we go. We've now finished the entire first 2 rows of logic bombs. These are the first 32 puzzles, and we're going to continue with puzzle 33 next time. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Cheers!